Recorded live from the engine room in Broad Ripple, this is the Voices of Indy podcast, hosted by Josh Gillespie. Voices of Indy is a show dedicated to giving you the opportunity to know the musical, visual, and theatrical arts of Indianapolis, Indiana. This week's guest is Paul Holland, one of the most incredible musicians that I have come across. And today's podcast episode is sponsored by Indianapolis Independent Entertainment. IIE LLC's goal is to help grow local DIY artists, freelancers, and businesses within Indianapolis and generate more paying creative opportunities. Their mission is simple: to establish a network of creatives who excel in areas of need and connecting them with other network members. This way, they can help to expand the local art and music scenes. IIE believes that by eliminating some of the intimidating barriers within the entertainment industry, more opportunities will be produced for local freelancers and businesses. This will help Indianapolis become the place to go for art and music in the Midwest. If you are interested in learning more, go to their website at www.indyent.com. That's INDYINDIEENT.com, and fill out a free application to discuss how you and IIE can redefine making it together. And again, joining me after a resounding episode of the live stream is local musician Paul Holland. Paul, thank you for being on the podcast and sticking around for that.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. We were just talking about, beforehand, some of the entertaining stories that you had. But
I have to tell you one real quick about
Yeah.
IIE, because this is actually something you said to me that I haven't forgotten. It still makes me laugh.
Oh my.
So we'll shout out first of all to Kenny and Alyssa,
Yes.
because they'll hear this. Thank you so much, by the way, for all that you guys are doing. It's so important, and I think it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And the same thing goes to you as well. Somebody also needs to interview you in a podcast, So you got to figure out how to make that work.
Right?
It should be like formal. You should like dress up and everybody should have a tux on. And
Oh man. I don't think I could. I definitely have to buy one. I certainly don't own one, and all my suits don't fit me now.
So when I did a show for that first one I did that you played at as well.
Mm-hmm.
I remember pulling up and we started unloading, and I just remember hearing you go, "This guy's got his name on cases." Shit. Every time I grab a road case now, I think of that and it makes me laugh.
Well, to me, that's like a sign you're legit. I mean,
yeah, if anybody can spray paint a name on a case,
I know you can. I know anybody can do that, but I mean, you see like the big time bands doing that, and it's like, well, holy cow, that's like they're legit.
That's been something I've been trying to do since I've came just in Indy. I mean, everywhere really, but I've always took kind of naturally. I think I just geared into it like a mentor role for other players and stuff like that, as far as getting their shit organized, getting everything together, and taking it serious. Like even on that level, I mean, like I say, anybody can spray paint a name on a case, but even I bought all those cases used.
Mm-hmm.
Even stuff like that. I mean, just taking care of your gear and all that. It's just everything comes together, and I honestly see a lot of missing links there when I am out and about. So it's always something I'm talking to people about, and whether it's cases or cables or you name it. But even like basic stuff like labeling, it's just so important to, if you're going to do something, do it as best as you can,
Well, the one thing that really impressed me, especially about that gig, was that we used your sound system,
mm-hmm.
and it was like top of the line in terms of how professional it was, just because everything, like you said, was labeled. It was
mm-hmm.
easy to connect. You had everything. It was very meticulous. As you were saying before, it was basically everything that you described to a T, so that it would be easy for practically anybody to go in there and do what you did with that.
For sure. That's how, so I wanted to set it up that way so I could tell somebody that's never played with me, follow the cables, because everyone would have a matching tag somewhere, and it literally tells you what to do as you just pick up a cable and read it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like step one, man. Step two is just the next thing. Here's your order for setting up your mixer. Here's your order for EQs, things like that. If you really break everything down to small compartmentalized things, and master little things like that one at a time, you start to just put the whole piece together.
Mm-hmm.
And it works like that with everything. If you're getting into guitars, you know, and kind of learning that world, amplifiers, everything has that same philosophy of just break it down to the smallest section, master that, move on to the next one.
You seem to, you talk about collecting, but you seem to have a very, not eclectic, but I mean, a vast, it's very broad in terms of how you're a gear nerd. Someone, and we're not just talking about, we talked about it briefly, you know, offline, between the sets. You were talking with Anthony and, just all the stuff that he has. But I mean, we're talking about guitars, we're talking about amps, we're talking about, you collect quite a bit, don't you?
I'm fortunate. My dad has a lot to do with steering me towards these things. Now, he's an expert at setting guitars up. I'll just say it because that's what it is. When he sets one up, it's different than, it's different. It just feels, like when you pick up a guitar and it's just like, hey, this is magical. A lot of that has to do with the setup's done, not just a setup. There's so much of it that involves what he calls like the human element. So yes, you can intonate a guitar, but that last little touch is all just done by ear then. And it's kind of like that philosophy too with everything. When you get into tubes, speakers, all these different kind of components. But the way I kind of designed it was I have an amp for every stage that I'm on, no matter how big or so small or how small. So for some of the larger stuff, I've done some fairly large things. So I had a big rig. It was a 1968 purple plexi 8x10 Marshall cabinet.
Oh, my word.
And on top's got 69 purple plexi super lead head. So that was for the big shows, and I love that thing, man, because I used to climb up on it, like on top. Yeah. And I did that to one of my favorite guitar players in the world. I did that to him just to shock him, because you just don't do that to him. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And all I saw back was him smiling, because he's like, nice. Nobody's done this to me in probably forever, or maybe never, who knows. But then I've got club amps for like blues, you know, jazz, all that type of stuff. I've got everything down to really tiny, small Fenders from the 50s, you know, I'm trying to think, 6 or 8-inch speaker. I think it's an 8-inch. So, which by the way, a lot of people always think I need a big amp to record. You actually want a small amp to record. It just sounds so killer. But yeah, same thing.
What would you define as a small amp?
Well, I mean, one like that. So I've got a 60, I think it's 66 Vibra champ, you know, real small amp, real low watts. And it just sounds like a monster when you track it. And I always thought that was cool. I don't know the science behind it exactly, because if you put a mic on like the big 8x10, yeah, it sounds great. I feel like it's almost like pushing too much air past the mic too fast or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know the magic behind that, but all I know is small amps sure do sound enormous when you track them for some reason.
That's so cool. I mean, the fact that you're able to figure that out.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work in that regards. Like when other people were going out to the bar or doing whatever in their 20s, you know, I was literally spending like 9 hours on after a day of work. Like I'm going to be up till 3 a.m. or whatever doing mic placement just on a guitar cab or whatever. I mean, I don't think it was 9 on a guitar cab, but drums for sure. I've done that endlessly, trying to find through just like Glenn John's technique and all kinds of different techniques. But mic, man, I've spent so many hours of my life doing mic placement, especially the acoustic guitars too. They're a nightmare to get what I want out of them, and it always seems like I'm going against what you're supposed to do to get what I want, which is the beauty of making music.
Yeah. Well, tell me, what is, I guess I have a couple of questions here. What would be your all-time favorite setup of the gear that you own? And then what is your most useful setup to you?
Once again, confidence and arrogance shake. It's hard to say like those things without people thinking, man, this guy's full of himself. But it's not. I've worked so hard, man. I just can't put that into perspective. For a lot of people, I think you just have to literally live that life. Roofing, carpentry, construction, military, postal. Like I've spent the last 3 years renovating my house after work. And there weren't a lot of days in there where it's like, hey, I'm taking a day off. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And on top of that, well, now I'm going to write, I'm going to record. Okay, I'm going to learn more mic placements. I'm going to research this. I'm going to sell this and try to get this. It's just endless. And that's why I think you have I think a real artist, man, they don't play music, they live music.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's been haunting me my whole life is there's something that just will not stop. I don't know what the end game is. It's not fame and glory for me. It never has been. But it is to like acquire some of these things, and those things are expensive, unfortunately, that I got taste for nice amps and guitars, and the ones I like from the eras I like, yeah, they cost an arm and a leg. But I don't stop until I get them, and I kind of haggle and hustle the whole way. So most of the stuff I have is used. Almost all of it's used. But I found ways to just slowly pick little pieces here and there all over the country, and it's really cool. Like some of the stories of how I ended up with certain ones, but my favorite setup, to answer your question, my favorite amp I own a 1960 Fender Super. So it's 210s. I'm not sure on the wattage. It made like 35 watts or something.
Okay.
I should know that, but anyways, so it's a factory. In a sense, it's a factory mistake. Like it has volume knobs in the center. They call them center volumes. And I think the story was Fender was like, hey, we don't want to do that like that. We want it all consistent on the same side. So they made those for I think like 2 months or something.
Oh, wow.
And then they kicked them out and started getting them all looking the same. But that thing, anybody that likes a vibrato sound, like the old Hendrix kind of deal, you don't need a pedal. Like that thing it literally is magic. And it's so funny because I'll let people play it even when I'll take it down to a club and they're like, oh, I don't need that. And then they play it and they're like, oh my God, like I need one of these.
Yeah.
But I saw one the other day and I think it went for like $7,000. And I got $300, I think, in on mine. So
wow.
Yeah. But it's just like that. There's still stories out there of where things turn up in places you wouldn't expect. There's still stories of, like, one of my favorite acoustics that I have. I always wanted it since I was a little kid. My neighbor had it. And she got it when she was 12, brand new. It was a 63 J45.
Oh, wow.
So when I was playing it, I think I had the original strings on it still. I mean,
my goodness.
It literally was a closet classic.
Oh.
And as I got older, I offered her, I think, a couple thousand. I think I capped out at like 2,500 or something in my 20s. And
sure.
there was one day she said, well, will you play me some songs? She never heard me play, so I did. And she said, I want you just to take it home with you. And she gave it to me.
No way.
Yes way. So that one I made a promise to myself that I'll do that same thing with that guitar someday when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't go out. It's been out only a couple times, but it's mainly just a studio recording guitar for me. But that one, eventually, I don't know when it'll happen, but I'll know when the time comes who it needs to go to.
Sure.
And I want it to go to somebody that's doing the work. And I don't want a collector to have that.
Yeah.
You know? That needs to be in the hands of somebody that they wouldn't have the opportunity to get that, but they deserve it. So I don't know where the rest of the stuff someday will go. I mean, hopefully I live a long life, but you never know. But hopefully a lot of my stuff gets scattered out too, because I got some really nice gear that I've acquired over the years. So,
well, what is some gear that you have that I guess that you're most proud to own?
That amp's one of them. I've got a pre-CBS Strat, a 63 that I use, but I think I might even sell it. I think I'm proud of that because it's a guy, when the time I got it, a guy that age shouldn't have been able to get that. Once again, I got it for $5,000. It's like a $20,000 guitar.
Oh my word.
And when the guy sold it to me, I was like, you know what this is, right? He's like, of course. You know, I've had a music store for 30 years. He said, I'm doing this for a reason for you.
Oh, wow.
And so, man, there's story after story of gear like that. It's cool that I think those stories are getting more rare, but it's cool that there's still some out there, you know, or something turns up where people are like, that doesn't exist, you know, and then all of a sudden it does. One guy had it in his house for the last 70 years.
Yeah. What's some of your...
Oh, I will not get rid of so I've got a 63 Southern Jumbo here.
Yes.
And I've got a 64 Hummingbird out there. I don't think I'll ever get rid of those.
Those are going to the grave with you.
I think so. I've kind of torn them up a little bit. Not by being stupid with them, but I mean, I'm wearing through the wood in some areas from playing and stuff, but
they're beautiful.
Yeah, they
and
sound good.
and they still sound amazing.
I take them out to bars and I get a lot of shit. People are like, you shouldn't. Somebody will always come up to me and be like, do you know what this is? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I bought it.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of what it is.
Yeah.
But I've got a beater. I call it a beater guitar. So I picked up a 47 Gibson Southern Jumbo. That's my bar beater.
You consider a 47 Gibson Jumbo your beater guitar?
It's rough. It looks like a trash can. It's not that bad, but the top was completely split. The back was split. Everything's been cleated.
Word.
It's been all put back together, and it plays great. And it's the loudest guitar I've ever played in my life.
Wow.
So that one, I'll bring that to bars, and I'll let somebody play that way before I'll let people play these because it's all scratched up already.
Sure.
But these, I'm like, no thanks.
Well, no,
depends who you are. You know?
It's a look, but don't touch.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, the reason a guy like that, I used to hand them out to everybody, and I think it was like a few months ago, some guy dropped one. And that was the first thing. I was like, hey, man, just sit down with it, and boom, hit the floor.
Oh, my word.
So it's like, I can't do that. I'm a luthier, I am a luthier. I just don't tell people. But I don't want to be fixing my gear.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, you got a lot of gear if you're going to be fixing that.
Yeah, I think maintaining mine's enough.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you were talking about that I definitely want to bring up with you is something that you've been doing locally since you've been in town is the open mics.
Yeah.
So tell me about your open mic nights that you do.
Well, my open mic night, so I'm just doing, I had several lined up and certain things have fallen through. And Indy's kind of a tough city sometimes to sell music, sports city. But man, is there so much potential here. And the people that are doing it are killing it. But I'm doing one so I do it at B Squared on the second Tuesday of every month. Now they do it every Tuesday, but I just handle the second typically.
Sure.
And
now where is B Squared?
It's in Brownsburg.
Okay.
So mine's different because I don't do a list. And after, God, I've been doing open mic nights since I was like 18, all over the country. I hate the 3 songs and you're out thing. And I get why they do it. I get that some people have big lists and stuff like that. I get it. But I'm fortunate where there's a whole entire room of people there every time. Place is packed. And I don't know, it leaves me I guess there's not a ton of players that come down. So I'll open up the floor for people. I'll say 45 minutes, or whatever. But I let the artists, I specifically don't do a list because I want them to talk to each other. Because you get these different tables and everybody kind of in music scenes where some people know each other, some don't. But I don't want somebody just sitting at a table, they're there to play music. They're a musician. Let's talk to other musicians, So I force them all to talk to each other and figure it out amongst themselves. And then they come up and it's like, whoever's next, that's all on you. I'm up here until you guys come up.
Really?
Yep. And then, I typically don't cap a lot of people because you get people who are driving an hour and a half. I've been that person's, I couldn't even tell you at point. Like by now in my life, I've had to play probably 3,000 open mic nights easily.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I mean, I was doing 3 a night forever.
3 a night?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
So I did a Lutheran school in 2009 out in Arizona, and I'd show up so dead tired the next day. So I was getting home at like 2 and 3 in the morning. And same thing, Denver is like, let me hit a blues club and play. Let me hit an open mic. Let me hit this other open mic. I think the most I ever did in one night was 5. And I timed it out because I think they started at like 6:30 or something.
Yeah.
And the last one closed at 2 a.m.
Oh my word.
So it was literally like making phone calls. Get me on the list at this time. Get me on the list.
Yeah.
And then just shooting all over town. And I will say this with open mic nights. You never, ever know who's walking through the door.
Okay, that sounds like a story. You've just queued up a story. You have just queued up a story.
I've got a lot of those stories.
Well, give us one.
I mean, the biggest one of my favorite ones, actually, I'll start with that, was, so it was in Tempe, Arizona, and it was this girl that was playing, and me and her hit it off right away. We liked each other's style, and then we found out we had the same birthday, which I was like, oh, that's, I never meet anybody that has my birthday, so that's cool. And so she just got off tour with Wilco.
No way.
Yeah, so Courtney Marie Andrews, and I think was either just here or coming here to Indy.
Oh, very cool.
She was such a talent. She was so young at the time. I don't know how old she was, but she looked so young. And I remember because she gave me her album, And that album, I guess nobody can find it, so it's gone up like a massive value.
Cool.
You know, I think if you find one, it's like $500 or something.
Oh, wow.
And she completely changed her image from that too. But that was one of my favorites. The biggest crazy one was, so that was also 2009, but I think late in the year. And I was playing, so they would do open mic nights and then sometimes have a featured artist type deal, right?
Yeah.
Close out the night. So I was closing out the night and these two guys came in and they came out to me and like, do you mind if we set in with you or something? And I'm like, well, I'm finishing up a set. And I said, it's all original music, so it's kind of tough, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, how about I just cut my set short, like 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I said, you guys good? He said, yeah, we're good. It's like, all right, let's do it. So I'll never forget this because right away, the first thing they did, you'd think they just sit down and start playing. This kid gets this chair from the bar, like a bar stool, and sets it up and starts climbing up on top of it and pulls out a tambourine. And the other kid starts playing acoustic guitar. So they played, I think, 3 songs and immediately came down, was like, thank you so much. Like, we just got into town tonight from New York. We moved here, and started telling me their story. So then they gave me their demo as well, which I still have. And that was the Lumineers. So,
no way.
Yeah. I saw them, it had to be 6 months later, and they were on like the one of the late shows. It happened so fast for them.
Yo, it did.
So that was cool.
Oh my goodness, that's a story.
Yeah, man, you never know. Like I was playing Blues Club one night and John Popper walked in.
Wow.
Let's see, Todd Moore, you know, Big Head Todd and the Monsters. Ryan McGarvey, just a monster blues guitarist. The band Zephyr, they were big in the 70s. They had like Tommy Bolin, I think, was in their band. Tommy's like a hidden secret in the guitar world. Monster. Like, I think there was a guy like Hendrix was like, I have to meet Tommy, but Tommy passed. Or one of them passed away first, but those guys were still hanging out in Colorado, you know.
Oh wow.
Guys from String Cheese Incident, Leftover Sam and Mo, all these like jam bands.
Yeah.
And that's like I've always tried to do that. I'd hit blues club, I'd hit jazz club, I'd hit a funk night somewhere.
Really?
And that's what brings all this full circle because everybody thinks like, oh, this guy's an acoustic player playing chords. It's like, no, I'm pretty fluent, like in a lot of different styles.
Yeah.
Blues especially, like I play with one of the top probably blues players in the world, man, and undoubtedly, so like I had to learn a lot, you know, to get up there and stuff with him. But I definitely hold my own. That's why I have the gear I have. It's like studio ready, but it's also there's a lot of guys with old amps, but like mine are. I'm picking tubes and stuff based on manipulating the sound I want to work with the pickups I have, everything down to obviously string gauge and everything. So it all kind of comes full circle.
That is incredible.
One-stop shop.
You are.
That's not even all of it, man. So like doing the Berkeley thing, I took classes. There was a music law class, copyright, licensing. I was taking songwriter classes just for fun. I was like, well, let's see. You know, I'm already writing.
Pat Pattinson classes?
I got the books. They made me buy the books for the class. So there's that. I mean, I played drums for 20 some odd years. So I pieced together a nice kit. Everything kind of, like I said, comes full circle. So I was a guitar builder for quite a while. I've built about 200 instruments with a guy out in Colorado. And all of a sudden, Tonewoods is like, hey, I know these, but now I'm playing drums. You know, I want this darker sound. I'm going to go some walnut, like everything. And then it's like, well, now I'm going to pair these tubes up, you know, with this guitar for this reason. And then now I want this, you know, I want this nickel string for this reason. Like everything, when you start unlocking these doors, like comes together. And then all of a sudden it's, well, I want this preamp that I can select this impedance on with this mic that's built this certain way. And I want it to go into this type of compressor. You know, it
sounds so scientific.
Yeah, it is. I think that's why there's not a lot of, I think there's a lot of artists that walk in studios. Like a lot of the artists I've met, they don't know shit about their stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost sad. Like, so, I'm talking the greats. And you can hear those stories and find them, I'm sure, in abundance. It was just a job, you know, and it's like, this is what I do, you know, and they're just killers. But they ain't going to be able to tell you what tubes to, you know, what position do I want like this tube in? Sure. You know, to change this about my breakup, you know, I mean, it's just, I don't think there's a lot of guys that get into it that aren't audio engineers or techs. I I don't think there's a lot of artists that are like, hey, I'm a tech now, or I'm an audio engineer. So
it sounds like that would, I mean, there's just so much there. I mean, it does sound like you have to truly live it and love it, and it is your lifeblood. Kind of like it sounds like that it is for you.
Yeah, but the neat thing about me is, who did I learn from? I've been extremely fortunate. I've ran into people that they were taught by the greats. You know, like, hey, this is a guy that worked at Fender in the primo years.
Yeah.
And he learned from him, and now he's taught me slowly over since I was a kid, you know, all these different things. And so I'd have that guy. Then I'd have an audio engineer that I look up to, you know, he has his stories, you know. He's like, yeah, you know, I was telling you earlier, I think he told me his first day on the job, he's like, I was recording Bob Dylan and Louis Armstrong the same day. So I've befriended all these people by accident, and there's so many other stories I can go in with this. I've always been in the right place at the right time. And that's what's so weird, where if you let that get in your head, it's like, then you start thinking, am I supposed to do something with this? Is this supposed to be big, or like, what is this? And I've kind of pushed that away as I got older, and I think they were just people I was supposed to meet in one way or another. I don't think it had to mean anything, but they all taught me something. The big one in Nebraska was Connor Oberst. I loved Bright Eyes, all that stuff, and so I was his mailman, which is just such a weird thing to say. Yes. But everybody has a mailman, you know?
Sure, but you don't necessarily think, yeah, I was Connor Oberst's mailman.
Looking into like how his background and all that, I mean, his first album I think was done when he was 13. But just seeing, like, knowing his parents and stuff like that, seeing like people support him and allow him to do this, and obviously blending it with just a very unique talent, you know, skill set with words and the way he thinks. But seeing that do-it-yourself thing and watching that, even like the Saddle Creek years in Omaha, Saddle Creek Records, and watching all these guys do this in Omaha, fucking Nebraska. You know, it's the cool thing about Omaha is every house had a basement because there's tornadoes. So every kid had a practice space. Yeah. Everybody could set up a studio, you know, and then you move somewhere like I moved to Maine, you know, it's hard to find a house with a basement. Yeah. So I just thought that was cool, but talk about do it yourself. Like, I was watching these guys at shows, you'd see 5 other people from other bands doing everything from wrapping cables to, and hey, now I'm going to jump up there and sing backup lyrics and then get off the stage and go back and run and help out with the bar. Like, oh, wow. That was quite a community. And there's a house there, and the house had like members so it was giant 4 sections, and it had you know, hey, you got Bright Eyes in the corner, you got the Faint on the next chunk, and then it went down the line. Same thing in Arizona. So when I saw Courtney and met her, I started picking around to see who are these people and all this stuff, and it was like they had all these houses in a row. It was like, hey, these are these kids doing all the photo work and video. These kids are the players. These are the engineers. These are the merch people. Everybody's wow. Yeah, it's so cool seeing like a community like live right next to each other, and everybody's just handling their area expertise like a boss. That sounds like it. Yeah. How you make a music scene. So I'll tell those kind of stories sometimes when I meet somebody that's either confused about it or feels hopeless about it. I'm like, you guys have to work together and have to talk to each other. You have to talk to everybody and expect nothing in return.
Is that the kind of advice that you would give? Like, if you were to critique the Indianapolis music scene, because clearly you have experienced music scenes all over the country. I mean, I think I've actually lost count of all the places that you said that
I think I only told you like 2 or 3. There's a lot more.
Yeah, I believe it.
Sure.
But how would you critique the Indianapolis music scene? What based on what you've seen in other cities?
Sure. People, if you want a music scene here, you're going to have to make it. So, I mean, you have to get your shit together. You have to get organized. You have to have discipline. And the thing is, you might have to do it by yourself until you meet somebody else that's also that way. Because I've slowly started meeting people like that one by one. I notice we'll all start navigating to each other, or another person will come in, and then they start picking my brain. Hey, do you know anything about tubes? I need to retube. So we'll try to find out ways where we can help each other out in a sense. I think you have to do that. Otherwise, it's like a lotto ticket. Somebody might hit it and get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a couple bands that had some cool shit, and I think some of it reached national, if not. I mean, there's probably, I can't speak for like jazz and blues that's going on here, but just like indie artists. I mean, you had Margot and the Nuclear So-and-So's came out of indie, right?
Yep.
So there are people who have done it, but I've only been here 3 years, so I don't know. Maybe there was a scene like this, or maybe there is now, and I'm just unaware of it. But I would think I would have ran into him by now because I'm out and about pretty frequently playing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my advice: is you have to create it. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to knock on your door and just hand you something easy. Once again, like I call it the lottery ticket because it has happened, but boy, is it rare.
Yeah.
So that's what led me, to reaching out to you, reaching out to Kenny and Alyssa. Their pitch was cool. It was, when I read it, I was like, this is what, somebody needs to take this helm. I'm the gear guy. Let's talk about all these different subjects with recording or songwriting and all this stuff like that. But I don't want to run a management company personally.
Yeah.
And somebody else is so much better suited for that than I am. And they seem like a great suit for that. And I'm sure there's others out there as well that are doing it. But I think there's going to have to be more talk between businesses too. Because I've ran into a lot of places over the years where either I couldn't play because I didn't fit a certain look they're going for or something, which is crazy to me.
Okay.
But that was definitely alive and well in Denver. I mean, I got rejected on gigs constantly.
Really?
And then all of a sudden I grew my hair out to my shoulders like, yeah, we'll book you. I was like, this is fucking crazy. But
it doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't. But it's a interesting industry, man. But I think there needs to be more communication between people that want to play. And let's say, yes, you're supporting the venues that exist here. But now let's say, hey, you go into a place that maybe doesn't have live music. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you got to be that bridge and sell it. This is why I think this would be a good fit. I think a lot of artists only have the right brain. You got to have the left brain to run the business side and actually talk to people. So say, look, you don't have music here, but you got a stage. Well, I got a sound system. We want to book a music night here, right? So, okay, well, how do we get to pay? Because clearly they're not going to take a risk and lose everything. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. Maybe you might have to play that one for free. Maybe you might have to play the first 3 for free and say, hey, after 3, this is what we expect if we're hitting this mark. That's what I started doing in Denver. We had a super loud 1970s kind of throwback group. I mean, and I had some serious players. I was the weakest link in the band by far.
Seriously?
Dude, the drummer was insane.
Wow.
So talented. And anyways, we wanted to play shows and we were getting rejected. And I said, this is crazy because we're out playing everybody. So I was like, how is this possible? So we went to, it was a bar that was a motorcycle repair shop. So they had motorcycles in the bar.
Okay.
I remember talking to a guy, I said, look, I want to do music night here. And he said, well, I've never done it. And so that's how it was. They had a stage, but no sound. And it was a bad room, bars real close to the stage, all this stuff. But I said, when it comes to pay, this is what we want. And it was barely anything. It was like, for 3 or 4 hours of music, I think that I told him we'll do it for $150 or something, right?
Yeah.
I said, here's the deal. If we hit this mark, I said, I want you to pay us accordingly. And I said, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put $100 in the bar right now. So the first $100 worth of drinks, you tell everybody it's from the band. It's on us. Call their friends. So,
wow.
And the other stipulation is I said, I want 2 other bands with me, and they're not going to fit the type of people you have in this bar. I said, I want a punk band, hip-hop band. So we had punk, hip-hop, and this 1970s deal.
No way.
And so we booked it like that, and it was such a success. They had a line around the sidewalk trying to get in, and that was the first night, and he said, $1,000. He said, I'm going to give you $1,000. He said, I want to do this once a month.
Wow.
I was like, that's how you do this. Mm-hmm. Don't settle for a place saying, hey, I looked at your Facebook page and there's not enough followers or likes or some dumb shit like that. If you can play and you can talk to people, there's a way. You'll find something. Mm-hmm. I'm like a phantom online by design, in a sense.
I noticed you are incredibly difficult to locate.
I'm kind of private, but I like that to a certain degree. But I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
Sure, yeah. Now, I kind of understand that, and um, even kind of relish that whole being able to um, do things almost sort of like the old-fashioned way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, before there was the necessity for followers and views and all these different things to get a gig. Of course, it's a lot nicer when people actually respond.
Yeah.
That's that,
I know these places got to pay the bills. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's some places where we're not taking a big gamble here, for one night for $150 for 2 people for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So when you're saying that that's the stipulation, how many followers, like, do these people not realize this stuff is going to fade out?
Mm-hmm.
Where's MySpace? What happened?
Exactly.
Where's Facebook going to be? Come on. You think people are going to
Twitter's on its way out, so.
Yeah, exactly. People need to bring that human element. We're doing this with recording and all these things, trying to get, hey, we want the sound of this old equipment and all this without the problem of maintaining it, but we want that in the new digital easy way. You have to still, like, how am I tying this together? That human element, like in all that old gear, we're trying to keep that alive. We're trying to bring back vinyl, all these different things. We're trying to bring back these things that were good for a reason, but some of them were a pain in the ass. But this human element that's kind of like faded or been like sidelined of, let me look at your social media, let me look at this, where's your press kit? What happened to when's the fucking last time you've seen a garage band? I
honestly can't say I can
exactly.
remember.
What happened?
That's a good question.
That was human. We lost it.
Yeah.
And we've traded it for something else. But I think these things come in waves. I think they come in full circle. I think one day a bar owner is going to get tired of listening to that jukebox or just seeing that TV on every night. And they're going to want something fresh, and somebody like me or somebody else can walk that door and say, hey, I want to do some live music down here. You ever had that? No? Okay, well, let's make this happen. It's no risk. We'll figure it out. And then that's one.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over. Now you get an army of people doing that.
Yeah. Oh, man. Imagine that. That Indianapolis would change. Like, I mean,
sure. There's going to be people that break out of here no matter what. That's the beauty, because there's so many people who are like, I have to move somewhere else to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you about making it here in 1 second when I think about that. But I always tell people, where are you going to go? You're going to go down to Nashville and compete with studio pros?
Yeah.
Playing, that are getting the gig. Like, you're here, do something with it here. If you got Slipknot coming out of Iowa, like, come on.
Right.
These Saddle Creek guys coming out of Nebraska, Tempe, Arizona, all these different places, these people found a way to carve it out. And it was through hard work. It's through discipline. It's actually doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is it's not overnight, and it might be 10 years. They always say that 10,000 hours. That's a fucking joke. It's like 10 million hours, and you're still lucky if you hit it.
Yeah.
The thing about making it, though, I get asked that constantly. I've had the real snide comments at times. Like, you trying to make it still? That kind of thing.
Oh, ew.
It's gross.
It is.
I always laugh and said, my answer is always the same. I've already made it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. I've made it. Like, there is whatever's in your head is not ever what I've been after.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of, I just wanted to figure out how all this worked, and I wanted to share something that, honestly, I'm not saying I'm amazingly talented. I think there's a gift inside of all of us, and if you choose to open it up and unlock it, that's great. And I think I realized that pretty young. Like, there's something maybe a little extra in here,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to be able to give that away. And that's not something that should be necessarily dependent. It shouldn't be measured up to the paycheck for it. I've given so much time away, just like free everything, man. Like, teaching people stuff free. Let me show you how to fix your guitar, your amp, all the stuff. Tonight I probably got 2 or 3 messages on my phone asking recording questions,
Mm-hmm.
or a mic question or something. It just doesn't end, but people did that for me.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing that for other people.
Paying it forward.
Passing that torch.
Yeah.
Some of these guys are getting up there. Some of these guys that have taught me stuff are 70 years old now, sitting on a collection of gear. It's where I'm going to probably be as well someday. And they start thinking, but yeah, they start sharing more and more and more. And I don't know. It's cool that it's like a lot of this stuff is passed down, like that, once again, that human element. People are passing these things along. Not everything's written in a book.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many trade secrets and stuff when you get into repair, lutherie, recording, all this stuff that's like old secrets that are kind of word of mouth.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah. Paul, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface with you.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. That just means, like, with a number of my guests, I need to have you back. I ask this of all of my guests because I want to make sure that we hit everything. Is there anything that we've missed in this discussion before we bring it to a close?
Well, I'll ask that people say they want a music scene. I run an open mic night. It's no holds barred. Come out to it. Second Tuesday of the month. B Squared in Brownsburg. That's one. That's one thing that I'm doing. Come down there and meet me, play. Other than that, if there's somebody out there listening to this that plays and does have those dreams, I want to get somewhere with this. You're going to have to do the work. And don't do it just by looking at the internet. Do it by coming out and actually meeting people doing the same thing. Find the people that are working and find the people that aren't and learn how to pick those circles well. And get ready to work your ass off.
That is some great advice. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend not only doing the live stream, but also the podcast.
Oh, I love this, man.
This has been a blast for me. And so I definitely appreciate it. And just to be able to get to know you more, to hear you play, it's been an honor on this end for sure.
Awesome.
Well, that is going to do it for us this week. I want to thank my guest, Paul Holland, for being on the podcast. This, I believe, will probably actually be the last one for the year. So keep an eye out for Voices of Indy. We'll be doing a heck of a lot more in 2023. I can't even begin to tell you all the stuff that's coming up. So keep an eye out. Follow us on Instagram at Voices of Indy, on all of the socials. Whether you follow us or not, don't care. But if you do happen to follow, you can listen to this on Spotify as well as YouTube and all the other social places that basically require us to do these kinds of things these days.
20 years from now, when you're still doing this, I want to still be back on.
You will be back on.
And we'll be like, remember that starting the music thing we were talking about? And it'll be Josh Gillespie Studios. And
well, that would be nice. That would be nice.
It would be cool, man.
It would be. Thanks, Paul. I really do appreciate you being on. That's going to do it for us. I've been Josh Gillespie. My guest has been Paul Holland. And check out his open mic nights, second Tuesday of every month.
I'll have music coming down too. I'm on. The only thing I really do is Instagram. It's make sound, make music.
That's right. Follow Paul there.
I'll open it up. I think it's private, but I'll open it up when I'm done with this. And don't ever be a stranger. Reach out, say hello.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. And we'll see you guys again next time.